Have you ever noticed how two people can experience the exact same situation, say, a brutally delayed flight, or being stuck in an endless line at a coffee shop, yet they walk away with completely different
Oh,
realities?
yeah, all the time. One person is just, totally unfazed.
Right. They pull out a book, catch up on emails, and their heart rate doesn't even spike. But the other person, their entire day is ruined.
Mm.
They are like visibly sweating, pacing around, and furious.
It's wild to watch.
It really is. Well, today we are looking at a stack of notes that prove reality isn't actually something that happens to you. It's something constructed entirely inside your head,
Which is a pretty massive paradigm shift, to be honest.
for sure. So, our mission for this deep dive is to decode the specific mental filters that dictate our success or failure. We want to figure out why we lose our natural childhood optimism and learn the mechanics of fundamentally changing our trajectory. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to see how this mechanism actually works in practice, we are starting with the story of a New York lawyer who had a massive salary, a flawless life on paper, and was physically dying of misery.
Yeah, it's the ultimate paradox of modern success, really.
Mm.
We're looking at a young man in 1980. He graduates from law school, passes the bar, gets married, and lands on the fast track to a highly prestigious career.
Checking all the boxes.
Exactly. Every single one. He is set up to make well over $100,000 a year, which, that was an astronomical starting point back then. By every single societal metric we were taught to measure, he had won the game.
But the internal reality was a stark, terrifying contrast, right? He absolutely detested being a lawyer.
Hated it.
And this wasn't just like a mild case of the Sunday scaries. It was this crushing day-to-day drudgery. He was buried under mounds of tedious paperwork. He dealt with constant trial postponements where a single case might get delayed 10 separate times.
Which just sounds exhausting.
Yeah. The grind was completely draining the life out of him, and it actually started to manifest physically.
And that physical manifestation is a crucial element of this case study. When a human being forces themselves to operate in a state of chronic misalignment with their core values, the brain interprets that psychological friction as a literal threat.
Wow, a literal threat.
Yeah, it triggers the sympathetic nervous system. So cortisol and adrenaline just flood the bloodstream because he dreaded going to work and felt this, weight of the world on his shoulders. His body was locked in a perpetual fight-or-flight state.
Which totally explains the severe symptoms. I mean, he developed chronic headaches, his stomach was constantly churning, and he was only in his late 20s, but the sheer stress aged him so rapidly that he looked like he was 40.
It's scary what stress can do.
Totally. His body was basically flashing a massive check engine light. So he goes to the doctor, they run a battery of tests, and they find absolutely zero underlying physical disease.
Right, because the disease wasn't physical. So they just prescribe him antacids and send him home. Medical science could treat the excess stomach acid, but it couldn't treat the root cause.
Which was his career.
Exactly. He diagnosed himself perfectly when he admitted he was, quote, spiritually dead. He was somaticizing his career dissatisfaction. His mind was basically using physical pain as a last resort to get his attention.
That is just, wow. Why do we so often ignore the check engine light in our own lives when the paycheck or the prestige is good?
Because society rewards us for ignoring it,
Yeah.
The paycheck is quantifiable, it's socially validated, the internal compass is invisible to everyone else. Trusting it requires a leap of faith that most people are simply conditioned to avoid.
That makes a lot of sense. So it got so bad that in 1985, at age 30, he hits a total breaking point. He's sitting alone in a dark den at 1 a.m., completely burned out. He actually says out loud to the empty room, "There's got to be more to my life than this misery."
A real rock bottom moment.
Yeah. And in a moment of absolute desperation, he's channel surfing and impulsively buys a home study program from a late-night TV infomercial, one that was actually endorsed by a well-known sitcom actress.
What's fascinating here is the psychology of that moment.
Yeah.
We become victims of the sunk cost fallacy.
Right, because of all the time and money he spent on law school.
Exactly. He had invested years of education, massive amounts of money, and built his entire identity around this prestigious title. It took hitting rock bottom, a point of sheer spiritual exhaustion, to bypass his ego and seek an alternative narrative at 1 in the morning from an infomercial.
And the core message of that random infomercial completely shattered his worldview. It taught that our subconscious beliefs dictate our external achievements, which law school certainly doesn't teach you.
No, definitely not.
So he became obsessed. He started devouring classic motivational literature. And eventually, he begins teaching adult education seminars in the evenings at a local high school for $30 a class. 30 bucks. I mean, that is a massive plunge from his track to 100 grand.
He traded financial security and societal status for psychological alignment. And the crazy part, the physical symptoms began to vanish.
Wow.
Yeah. By 1992, he fully phased out his legal career to become a full-time motivational speaker and writer.
I can't even imagine what his family thought.
Oh, he faced intense pushback, particularly from his mother, who really mourned the loss of the social capital of saying, "My son is a lawyer."
Yeah, that's a classic family dynamic right there. It really makes you wonder why we endure the churning stomachs and the migraines just to keep up appearances. We routinely defer to the external paycheck instead of trusting our internal check engine light.
It's true. But his dramatic career shift really proves that changing your perspective can change your life.
Right, but what does that perspective shift look like in, everyday mundane situations? Like, not everyone needs to quit their job.
Exactly. And the text breaks this down beautifully with a parable about two people. Let's call them Sarah and Sam.
Okay, Sarah and Sam.
Yeah, so they go to the exact same coffee shop on their lunch break. This isolates the variable of perception perfectly. The external circumstances are identical. They have the same waitress, they experience the exact same wait time, they receive the exact same quality of food.
Okay, so a totally controlled environment.
Exactly. So Sarah walks in with a smile, great posture, a spring in her step. She exchanges pleasant conversation with the waitress, thoroughly enjoys her meal, and heads back to the office with her battery completely recharged.
Sounds like a great lunch break.
Right. But Sam, on the other hand, walks in scowling, hunched over, and tense. The text literally says he looks like he's been sucking on sour pickles all morning.
Oh man, we all know a Sam.
We do. His body language just screams, "Stay away." He is deeply annoyed that the waitress didn't take his order instantly. He complains about the food, and he fumes when he doesn't get his check right away. Two vastly different realities spawn from the exact same room.
We really do mistake our perception for objective reality, don't we?
We do. And biologically, what we are seeing in Sam and Sarah involves the brain's reticular activating system,
Right.
or RAS.
The RAS, right?
Yeah. The human brain processes millions of bits of information every second, but we only consciously register a tiny fraction of that. The RAS acts as a bouncer for your brain. It filters out what it deems irrelevant and only lets in information that confirms your current state of mind.
So that is confirmation bias operating in real time. Sid walks in angry, so his RAS literally filters out the waitress's polite tone. He is neurologically blind to it.
Precisely. His brain is actively hunting for friction to validate his bad mood.
That's crazy.
It is. The text defines attitude as the mental filter through which we experience the world. A negative filter defaults to "I can't." It dwells on problems, finds fault, and sees limitations. A positive filter operates on an "I can" frequency, concentrating on solutions and seeing possibilities. Sarah's RAS was scanning for connection and efficiency, so her brain constructed a positive reality.
It is basically the equivalent of wearing tinted sunglasses indoors.
Mm-hmm.
If you put on dark gray lenses, everything in a brightly lit room looks gloomy. And if you wear them long enough, you forget the lenses are even resting on your nose.
That's a great way to put it.
You stop realizing your vision is altered and you just start complaining that the architect did a terrible job lighting the room.
Yeah, Sam genuinely believed the waitress was incompetent and the restaurant was awful. He had completely forgotten about his own gray lenses.
But nobody's born wearing gloomy sunglasses, right?
But-
I mean, if we all have these mental filters, where do the negative ones come from?
Well, the text provides a vivid analogy for this progression. The mental window. We all enter the world with a pristine, squeaky clean mental window.
And the ultimate proof of that is a toddler learning to walk.
Right?
Like, a child will stumble and fall down 50 times in an afternoon.
Well, at least 50.
But they don't blame the carpet, they don't frown and develop imposter syndrome about their lack of coordination, and they certainly don't yell at their parents for providing lousy walking instructions. They just smile, get back up, and try again. Their window is clean.
Entirely unobstructed. But, as we grow, life inevitably splatters our window.
We get dirty.
Yeah. We experience sharp criticism from a parent or a teacher. We endure the ridicule of middle school peers. We get rejected, disappointed, and clouded by doubt.
And instead of washing it off, the tragedy is that most people just let the dirt accumulate. They go through their adult lives looking through a filthy, opaque window.
Which mirrors the concept of learned helplessness. After repeated negative stimuli, the brain conserves energy by simply giving up. People fail to clean their attitude window.
They just accept the muddy view.
Exactly. They accept the distorted view as permanent reality. They lose their enthusiasm, become frustrated, and eventually give up on their dreams because they are navigating life blindfolded by their own unexamined psychological grime.
Okay, let me push back on this, though. I'll play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Isn't it a bit naive to just tell someone to, clean your window? Life doesn't just throw a little dirt from a bad middle school experience. Sometimes life throws massive, catastrophic boulders. People endure horrific suffering, grief, trauma.
Right.
Telling someone in those situations to just grab a squeegee sounds a bit dismissive, doesn't it?
This raises an important question, and it's probably the most critical critique of this philosophy.
Hmm.
Does the concept of choosing your attitude hold up under the weight of true devastation? Or is it just a luxury for the comfortable?
Exactly.
Well, the text actually addresses this exact point head-on. It angers its response by examining the most extreme example of human suffering imaginable.
Right. To prove that attitude is always a choice, the author cites a renowned psychiatrist who survived the unimaginable horrors of the 20th century death camps.
We are talking about an environment engineered to eradicate human dignity entirely.
Oh,
This survivor watched his father, his mother, his brother, and his wife perish in the gas chambers.
just horrific.
He and other prisoners suffered from freezing cold, starvation, and extreme daily brutality. Every external identifier of his humanity was stripped away.
And yet, from this literal hell on earth, the survivor concluded something incredible. He realized that the guards could take away his family, his health, his physical autonomy. But there was one thing they could never touch. He called it the last of the human freedoms, the absolute ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances.
He discovered the psychological gap between stimulus and response. In the camps, the stimulus was unimaginable torture. Yet he observed that even under those identical brutal conditions, some prisoners hoarded their last scraps of bread, while others gave them away to comfort those who were worse off. Yeah, the brutal environment influenced them, certainly, but it did not dictate their character.
The takeaway for the listener here is just staggering. If a prisoner enduring unspeakable suffering retained the ability to choose their attitude, it is impossible for any of us to claim we cannot take control of our own attitudes in our daily lives. You can leave the filth on your window, or you can take out a squeegee. The choice is yours alone.
It strips away our excuses, really.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Happiness is not a person in a certain set of circumstances. It is a person with a certain set of attitudes.
I love that phrasing.
Yeah.
But the text also issues a stark warning against misinterpreting this.
Right. So, say the listener decides to take out their mental squeegee and clean the window. They sit on their couch smiling. Will money and success just magically fall into their lap?
No, absolutely not. And that's the magical thinking trap. The text is highly practical here. It states explicitly that just having a positive attitude will not lead to outrageous success by itself.
Right, you can't just think your way to $1 million.
Exactly. The overarching framework of the author's philosophy is think, speak, act. To maximize potential, you still have to apply time-honored success principles. You have to actively confront your fears, overcome adversity, and take massive action toward your goals.
But, and this is the key insight, attitude is the foundation. Without a positive attitude, you literally cannot activate the other principles.
Yes, exactly.
If your window is smudged, the light of those success principles is blocked. When you clean the window, the light pours in, and you can finally use those empowering principles to achieve phenomenal results.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, think of those success principles, the hard work, the networking, the courage as the engine of a vehicle. But your attitude is the engine oil.
Oh, that's a brilliant analogy.
Right. Attitude isn't the entire vehicle, but without it, the engine seizes up no matter how hard you hit the gas.
Right. You could have a 500 horsepower engine representing incredible talent, but if the crankcase is dry, if your attitude is toxic, that engine is going to destroy itself from the internal friction.
Exactly. Action born from a negative filter always sabotages itself. You'll quit at the first sign of resistance, but when you think, speak, and act in alignment, you remove the internal friction. You are firing on all cylinders.
So the external world hasn't magically changed. The trial postponements still exist. The coffee shop line is still long. But your capacity to navigate that world without destroying yourself has transformed.
Beautifully said.
Well, we've covered so much ground today. We've explored how a miserable lawyer completely changed his reality by changing his mindset. We've looked at how our mental filters create our daily experiences, like Sarah and Sam in the coffee shop.
And of course, the profound freedom we have to choose our attitude, no matter what life throws at our mental windows.
So, what does this all mean? Think about a recurring frustration in your life right now. Maybe a difficult coworker, a stalled project, or a really bad daily commute. Is the problem actually the situation itself? Or is it possible you're just looking at it through a mental window that hasn't been washed in years?
Hmm.
What would happen if you decided to pick up the squeegee today?
That's a great thought to leave on. Thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive.
Keep exploring, keep questioning those filters, and we'll catch you next time.